So G7, as we have been seeing over the last several meetings, is a pale shadow of what it used to be.
And especially in case there are two nuclear powered states fighting like us and Pakistan, that distinction again becomes very important to note. But I won't say neglected is in the background, that is the maritime security. You see, we have got a huge coastline, and we are dependent on the LLV which comes out of the Middle East.
We have IMEC, which is the upcoming trade corridor, India-Middle East Economic Corridor. We have INSTC, which passes through Iran, for which we have been members for a very long time. We have a port in Chabahar.
See, they have been wanting to decimate the nuclear capacity which the Iranians have developed over the last about 10 to 12 years.
In the last few years, our relationship with the Gulf countries has totally been transformed.
Welcome to Library Chart, where we strive to unpack the most pressing geopolitical dynamics shaping our world. I'm your host, Anurag Bisen, and today we are honored to be joined by two highly distinguished guests from the Vivekananda International Foundation, Dr. Arvind Gupta, Director of VIF, former Deputy National Security Advisor, and ex-Director General of Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, a career diplomat and national security expert. Dr. Gupta brings deep insight into global strategic affairs. Lt Gen R.K. Sawhney, Senior Fellow at VIF, former Deputy Chief of Army Staff and Director General of Military Intelligence. With a distinguished career in India's defense and intelligence community, General Sawhney brings operational and defense strategic perspectives to our discussion. Today's session is titled Axis of Uncertainty, the New Global Disorder and India's Strategic Calculus. We are here to explore the sudden escalation of global conflicts, from Russia's Ukraine conflict to the unfolding tensions between Israel and Iran. We'll ask our guests to help us understand the current geopolitical tilt, identify the triggers behind recent Israeli strikes on Iranian targets, assess implications for India, and project possible short-term scenarios. Dr. Gupta, I'll start with you. Given the compounded crisis in Ukraine and now the Iran-Israel flare-up, how would you describe the current global security environment? Has the international order shifted decisively?
Thank you, Anurag. I think the current global security environment is very precarious. I don't remember in the last few years it has been as dangerous as it is today. The Russia-Ukraine war that has not ended. In fact, it has escalated. And now we have the eruption of Iran-Israel or Israel-Iran conflict or war, which is escalating further. And we are also seeing the continuation of the Gaza war. We recently had a very short but very intense India-Pakistan conflict. And there are many other fires burning all around. The sad part is that the international community is simply not geared to handling the challenges of this magnitude. Earlier, the UN Security Council would step in, pass some resolutions, etc. But UN Security Council has been blocked for years now. The habit of mediation, etc., which sometimes would, bring down the temperatures, bring down ceasefires, and generally control the situation, that is also disappeared. There is absolutely no ideas as to how to handle these conflicts. So more or less everyone is on their own. So this is a very dangerous situation. As regards a shift in the international order, I think that is also visible. As I said, the UN Security Council and many other UN bodies are today ineffective, dysfunctional, or not functioning to the expectations. We also have the major powers, particularly the US, China, Russia. They have their own issues with each other. We are seeing major changes today in all regions, be it Europe, be it Asia, in Africa, Latin America, everywhere seeing major changes that are taking place. And most of these changes are uncoordinated, unsynchronized. So I think the international order is shifting to the extent that today the capability of the international community to step in and give some direction and stop the escalation, that I think has been compromised.
Thank you, sir. General Sawhney, sir, uh, in your opinion, what catalysts, military, intelligence, political, led to Israel's sudden escalation against Iran? And how does this fit into wider regional strategic dynamics?
You see, Anurag, Iran has been on the crossfires for Israel for a very long time. You see, they have been wanting to decimate the nuclear capacity which the Iranians are developing over the last about 10 to 12 years. So this is not a sudden development. They have been watching it very carefully. But they have also calculated that this should be done in a very systematic fashion. So they have systematically made sure that the ring which Iran had created around itself by its proxies like Hamas or like Houthis, etc. So they were the ones which were giving them a sort of a protection. They were the forward elements around their country itself. So they went for these elements in a very systematic fashion. Must have heard about what they did in Lebanon, what they did with Houthis in conjunction with Americans. So gradually and slowly, they took away all the elements which could have given the protection to them in a very systematic fashion. And after that, they went about also gathering intelligence about the Iranians, and not from without, but from within itself. So they were waiting for a very sort of opportune moment. And I think politically that was available now, that his position in the parliament, because he got the adequate support, was strengthened. And he also had degraded the air defense elements which were giving protection to Iran. And he was calculating in his own way, which may be exaggerated also, the increased, what do you call, capacity of the Iranians by making a nuclear bomb. So with all these calculations and meticulous intelligence, I think he reached a conclusion that he should go for the kill. And it is at that time, I think, the restraining factor which was there from the Americans, that also is managed to override, actually managed to disregard it in a way that he preempted them. And he went for the kill, absolutely, if you ask me. At that particular time, I think they were sure that they would be able to manage to destroy the capacities of the nuclear capacity, refining capacities which the Iranians have got, and they went for it. And they had managed to inflict very substantial damage. And it is at that point they made the whole world and America realize that they have reached this place where they cannot be restrained. So I think in a way, they forced America to join them in doing the final kill. This is my perception. So it was a very calculated, very, very sort of a move that they made. And now they have started this particular process of going for each of the refining capacity which the Iranians have got. They have been able to damage some of it, but some of the capacities which are deep under and which require very substantial sort of bombs which only the Americans have got. And it appears that they have also managed to cajole the Americans to join them in this process. So it's a very long sort of a thing. They had put a lot of passion into it, lot of thought into it. Whether after eliminating or degrading the nuclear capacity of Iran, they would be able to bring peace in this area, that is something which is debatable.
Sure. Sir, you mentioned about a shift in regional global order, sir. I'd like you to comment on the relevance of G7 as it obtains today, sir. Given Trump's early departure from the summit, the lack of unity over Ukraine, and also what does this Iran-Israel conflict mean for India's strategic interests in West Asia, sir? Should we expect shifts in energy security, trade corridors, or diplomatic assignments? So both these things I would like you to address.
So G7, as we have been seeing over the last several meetings, is a pale shadow of what it used to be. G7 was a very influential grouping at one point of time, where the most powerful countries would meet and they would set the global agenda.
Yeah.
And they would also take actions and sometimes even diffuse the situations. But now G7 itself is divided. G7 became G8 when they brought in Russia some years ago, and then they throw out Russia. So G7 had its own politics. I don't think it really plays any important role. And as you said, there are tensions within the G7 also. I mean, look at the kind of relationship between Canada and the US, particularly after Trump came in for the second time. So G7 is not of any great significance, but as a grouping, it is there, and maybe it can do some little coordination amongst themselves. As you know, India has a deep strategic interests in West Asia. We have a huge historical historical connection with them. We have about almost 10 million, 9.5 to 10 million Indian workers who have been there for for decades, and they send a huge amount of remittances to India. But equally important, in the last few years, our relationship with the Gulf countries has totally been transformed. Today, we have deep connections, interlinkages, and engagements in new areas. Defense is one of them, defense and security, counterterrorism, economy, trade, energy, and also a lot of our shipping routes pass through that. And today, the Gulf countries themselves, particularly like Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc., they are very important countries in the world. They have a huge amount of resources. Qatar plays a very important role. Kuwait plays a very important role. Bahrain is also important. So these are now, they have some of the highest per capita incomes in the world, and they have excellent relationship with us. Modi ji has gone there several times. They have also come here, and there is a lot of people-to-people contact. So this instability in the Middle East is going to create some issues, particularly for the trade corridors that you mentioned. We have IMEC, which is the upcoming trade corridor, India-Middle East Economic Corridor. We have INSTC, which passes through Iran, for which we have been members for a very long time. We have a port in Chabahar. And we also have possibilities of working together with some of these countries in Africa. UAE, for instance, is very active in Africa. So all this is going to be impacted if the situation becomes worse. But at the same time, I would say there are also opportunities, because these people also see India as an anchor of stability. So they are also worried about how this whole situation might develop. So they are looking at India for many things. For instance, food security. They are looking at India for food security. They are ready to invest in India in many areas which are of importance. Science and technology has become very important. AI has become important. Cyber has become very important. So I think this remodeling of the West Asia or Middle East that is happening right now, in which India has a chance, provided our engagements remain intact and our diplomacy is deft. And I think we should not forget Iran also. Iran is also an extremely important country for us. And we have, so on both sides of the Gulf, we have to have a good relationship. But today, India is well placed to do that. And that's why we must take our positions very carefully and in a balanced way. So, thank you, sir. General Sawhney, sir, from a defense and intelligence standpoint,
How should India position itself, especially with respect to maritime security in the Arabian Sea, possibility contingency planning for disruption of oil supplies through the Straits of Hormuz, and information sharing, sir?
See, now that you have mentioned this has brought us down to the area which is slightly, I won't say neglected, is in the background, that is the maritime security. Is extremely important. You see, we have got a huge coastline, and we are dependent on the LLV which comes out of the Middle East. So there is a requirement of more cooperation with the countries in this area as far as the maritime security is concerned. There is a requirement of coordination with them to make sure that our supply lines, especially the energy supply lines, and our, what do you call, the movement of the ships which carries oil and gas are not interrupted. Not only that, we are also becoming a very important exporting nation. So our supply lines go through these areas which are impacted by the present environment. So guarding them, making sure that they're given the security in conjunction with the countries around in that area is very important. And as we have always mentioned, our Navy, our naval presence is very substantial, starting from the east coast of Africa right up to Malacca. So we are, in a way, the major, one of the, I would say, the major security provided in this border, in this area. There is a requirement to strengthen the capacities in this part in conjunction with the other countries, especially the Gulf countries and my view are very important. In them, we have got relationship which are trade relationship to commerce and also security relationship. So there is a requirement of having a much more closer integration, a bilateral exercises with them. So that is where we have to show ourselves, which we are already there, but we have to coordinate it so that we have people to reckon with. Because anything which happens in this area, any disruption which is in this particular area, in the maritime, domain, and especially around this particular very important region, is going to directly impact us, trade-wise, economy-wise, and security-wise. That is my view.
Thank you, sir. So, Dr. Gupta, continuing with global order and alliance partnerships, do you foresee countries being drawn into polarized camps? They already are, actually. Might this conflict provoke broader alliances or lead to new alignments beyond the Middle East?
Yes, I think we are seeing a lot of polarization in the world, but the alliance is also shifting because we are in an interconnected world. It is very difficult to remain in an alliance forever because your interests are there everywhere, economic interests, technological interests, etc. So I think today interest-based groupings are being formed, and these interests could be regional interests, this could be technological interests, trade interests, etc. So I think this is the what we can call the Sankraman Kal, the period of transition. Period of transition is a very, very creative period. And it is also a period where some creative destruction will take place. So creative destruction in the sense that old mindsets will have to be given up and new things will have to come up. But all these opportunities are opening up. So, General Sawhney, what are plausible near-term trajectories, sir? From limited exchange to proxy escalation, what indicators should we watch, sir, in your opinions?
Okay. It's a very difficult question to answer because what has happened today is that there is no warming up period. There are no long-term uncertainties, warning, etc. The escalation in regional or even in the global conflicts can suddenly erupt without even normal people knowing about it. So there is a requirement of a constant watch. And another point which I now see, that earlier on we used to divide the possibly areas of conflict into the forward defended lines and in the depth area, static area. No, that particular distinction and evaporating. The forward defended localities, for example, are are relevant, but they are not so relevant because the strike itself may suddenly go into the capital. So wherever we thought that we were comparatively safe, we are not safe. Must have noticed that but fight between Iran and Israel, the strikes have taken place on capitals, on the ports, because there are no forward lines, because they were approximately, I think, about 2,000 kilometers away and they got hit. Even when you look at the look at the Ukraine and the Russian battles you fight, it started off in a conventional manner. But now they have degenerated into something like what happened in First World War. But at the same time, you notice the Ukrainians sending their elements which they infiltrated a long time ago, hitting their bases where their nuclear, aircrafts are placed and hitting them 3,000, 4,000 miles in the Russian territory. So the old concept of the lines, the forward lines and the depth lines and the strategic area, that has evaporated. And especially in case there are two nuclear powered states fighting like us and Pakistan, that distinction again becomes very important to note. But even if there are not nuclear equipped, so this is something which requires now the intensity of the battle itself has increased many folds. And the distinction has stopped between the combatants and non-combatants. So many things you have to keep into view. For example, if you are hit in the cities, densely populated city, which the whole world, the biggest cities are very densely populated. When they are hit, where do the civilians go? Are we equipped to keep them into the, bunkers? Are the, underground areas sufficiently large enough to contain them? And your headquarters, for example, one always thought that six-story buildings which you saw from a distance and you had your armed forces headquarters or your prime minister's headquarters or intelligence headquarters. We found that they were taller they were, the more impressive they were. But now you realize they become the prime targets. You see, just imagine that the Mossad being hit, this side, the IRGC, which was, they thought was Iranian elite corps in a certain way, hit, you find that the site is being hit from within the country itself. Can you imagine that the top armed forces officers of Iran getting eliminated from within in a period of 1 hour? So I would say this is a very, very dangerous situation which requires a thought to be given to. Have we realized evacuation of the countries, for example? They have given a warning when the battle is taking place, Tehran to evacuate itself. Imagine if Delhi has to be evacuated or Bombay has to be evacuated. Look at the tremendous amount of strain and the problem it is going to cause. So you see, which was earlier confined only to the soldiers, airmen, and the Marines, the sailors. No, it has come to each and everybody in the other country, in the adversarial country. So I think this is one area which requires to be studied minutely. The wars are going to be intense, the war is going to be unpredictable, and wars are going to be very, very lethal. This is my...
We are down to our last set of questions, sir. Dr. Gupta, what should be India's key policy priorities in response, diplomatically, economically, and militarily, sir? And General Sawhney, as a concluding ask, what advice would you offer Indian policymakers and defense planners right now? With you, sir.
Let me take it together. See, we have talked about the changing nature of conflict, the war, etc. And naturally, it's a very worrisome trends that we are seeing. But let me see the other side of it also. Because we are very much in an interconnected world. People also understand that cooperation is very important. It may be difficult, but it is very important. Today, for instance, the undersea cables. Today, no country can live without a internet.
Yeah.
and they are passing through, crisscrossing the world through. Some of our data probably comes through the the territories which are not necessarily very friendly towards us. So we have to look at cooperating with this, or look at the climate change issues or food security. Now, nobody can handle climate change unless you cooperate. And these things are also being talked about. So I think it's a question of how we present the present scenario. We ought to say, and as we have been saying in our own narratives, that this world is a family. Of course, at this time, a lot of jhagda is going on in the family. But we also ought to be really cooperating to sort out these issues. We should prioritize peace over war. We should prioritize peace over war. If we talk about it, then perhaps there will be some chance of reformulating our institutions or making new institutions, etc. And if you look at a lot of these regional cooperation organizations, look at ASEAN, for instance, or SCO, or BRICS, or Africa Union, etc. They are learning to cooperate with each other. You don't see these big issues separating this. There may be small little things here and there, etc. So I see this as in a positive way also, because in this period of transition, new ways of cooperating will also have to be found. So I think Indian diplomacy, which is already now transforming itself, look at the way we are cooperating, look at the way our engagements are going on. Yes, we will have difficulties because you have to deal with everyone, enemies, adversaries, friends, etc. And sometimes, we make a lot of things that we are changing our positions. We don't know how to react, what positions we should take. But probably this is not the period when, in a multipolar world, when you are dealing with everyone, it is very difficult to take one position, one size fits all kind of a situation. And I think other countries are also beginning to understand. So if it is interest based, and if it is based on the general principle of cooperating, peace, and helping each other, like Vasudev Kutumbakam that we talk about, or the Vishwamitra concept that we have, then perhaps new ideas will also come.
I think, first of all, I would not take the liberty of advising the policy, the planner, because I think all of them are very competent. But I would just like to say that there is a requirement of looking at wars and conflicts in a new fashion. Having served almost 40 years, 44 years if you do my a training period, I have come to a conclusion that the wars are increasingly becoming very destructive. But wars also cannot be avoided. So there is a requirement of deeper thinking, requirement of thinking about the areas which we have never thought about. Because, for example, the transparency which is now available in the battlefield is absolutely frightening. No aircraft can take off from the adversary's airfield without your going to come to a remark. Each tank which is moved will be known to the other side. So under this transparency, to plan and to be able to hold your own becomes very difficult. So there is a requirement to go deeper into thinking about this. There is also the awesome capacity which is being developed, and which again is also autonomous, which is with the drones, which are not manned aircraft, they're manned audio vehicles. So all these new things which have come and which are every day coming, you see, innovation is making the war field more dangerous. And it is not the war field itself, it is the whole lot of country danger being sort of a one-way. So there is a requirement of thinking afresh. I think what happened in my time when I was serving and what is happening now, there is a complete sea change. One is very happy that the new lot of the officers on the all armed forces and also the connected people, Ministry or Defense, other people, and the planning itself, they are become much more aware about the changes which must be continued. But there is a requirement of synergy amongst all the elements. And I think we have also learned to prepare with our recent conflict with Pakistan, the importance of integration, the importance of jointly fighting the wars. So whatever hesitations or problems which were earlier there have to be smoothened down, And we have to go into the next battle, or the possible battle, as a united, integrated whole. Not only the three services, but the elements of the civil power itself. Our political entity, our political thinking has been very present. That must continue to be so. And it must continue to be coordinated along with our military part. Because in my view, being an army chief and being very anti-war, if you want to have peace, you must have a very competent war machine.
Thank you, sir. So we end on this note of hope expressed by Dr. Arvind Gupta and need for introspection expressed by General Sawhney. Thank you, sirs, for your valuable insights into the complex and evolving global security environment. Your deep insights, strategic and operational perspectives have helped us better understand the implications of current conflicts and how India must navigate this turbulent landscape. To our listeners and viewers, thank you for joining us on this episode of Library Chat. We hope this conversation has given you food for thought on the geopolitical shifts underway. We welcome your feedback and invite you to share suggestions on topics you would like us to explore in future episodes. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged. Thank you. Thank you.